Have you ever looked at someone and felt a spark you could almost touch? A warmth in their eyes, a softness in the way they spoke, a moment that felt perfectly mutual, until later when reality whispered something different. It's almost strange how love can feel shared, mirrored, even undeniable, yet still turn out to be painfully one-sided. Psychology has a name for this phenomenon. It's called the reciprocity illusion. Your mind's quiet ability to convince you that someone feels the same way you do, even when they actually don't. And the truth is, this illusion is more common than heartbreak itself. Your brain is wired to fill in blanks you never noticed, to amplify gestures that were never meant to be romantic, to assign meaning to warmth that wasn't meant for you specifically. And in those moments, when your heart races, when your thoughts drift, when your imagination begins painting futures, you swear the feeling must be mutual. But love, especially early love, is rarely what it seems. And tonight, we're going to explore exactly why. Let's step into a familiar scene. Imagine you're talking to someone you've slowly started liking. They laugh at your jokes, they remember little details, their voice softens when they say your name. They look at you just long enough for you to feel seen. At night, you replay the moments. You sigh, smile, and wonder if maybe, just maybe, this time love is mutual. Your mind draws a picture of what it could be. And the more you feel it, the more real it seems. But as days pass, their energy shifts. They respond slower, their tone becomes neutral, they stop initiating conversations. Or maybe they remain perfectly friendly, but you notice something. Their warmth was never exclusive to you. This moment, when the illusion breaks, is where confusion begins. You ask yourself, did I imagine everything? Why did it feel mutual? Why was I so convinced they felt the same? You're not alone. Billions of people across the world experience this same emotional illusion because the human brain isn't just built for survival, it's built for connection. And sometimes connection is misunderstood. Most people believe that mutual love is easy to recognize. They think, if someone likes me, I'll feel it. If the chemistry is real, I won't misread it. Two hearts just know. But psychology tells a very different story. Humans are terrible at detecting romantic interest. We consistently overestimate reciprocity. We confuse kindness with attraction. We misinterpret politeness as emotional openness, and we mistake attentiveness for intimacy. The illusion feels real because we assume emotions operate like mirrors. I feel something, so they must feel something too. But emotions aren't mirrors, they're projectors. They take what's inside us and shine it onto someone else's surface. You're not seeing the person as they are. You're seeing a reflection shaped by your own longing, fear, hope, and memories. And the more you want something to be mutual, the more your brain convinces you that it already is. Let's go deeper into the psychology, because understanding the science behind one-sided love may be the most comforting and clarifying insight you'll ever hear. A. Cognitive bias number 1, the projection effect. Your brain loves patterns, and when you feel attraction, your brain assumes the other person does too. This is your mind's way of reducing uncertainty and emotional risk. It fills in missing details. Their neutral smile becomes flirtatious. Their friendliness becomes emotional intimacy. Their attention becomes unspoken desire. This is projection. You place your feelings into their behavior without realizing it. B. Cognitive bias number 2, the halo effect. When you like someone, your brain automatically magnifies all their positive traits. Everything they do seems warm, meaningful, intentional. If a stranger holds the door, it's politeness. If your crush holds the door, your brain whispers, they care. C. The reciprocity heuristic. Humans are wired to return favors, so your mind expects emotional reciprocity too. You give attention, you assume they'll give it back. You feel connection, you assume they feel it too. But emotions don't follow rules, and love doesn't obey symmetry. D. Attachment patterns. If you have an anxious attachment style, you're more likely to feel love intensely. You're also more likely to believe feelings are mutual because your heart wants reassurance. Avoidant individuals, on the other hand, may send warm signals unintentionally, but never intend to deepen the connection. E. Mirror neurons and emotional reading errors. Your brain picks up micro-expressions in others, but your interpretation is often wrong, especially when you're emotionally invested. Your mirror neurons fire not based on reality, but on expectation. F. The spotlight of emotion theory. When you fall for someone, your brain increases attention to their behavior. You notice small things, their tone, their eyes, their gestures, their pauses. But they're not experiencing this spotlight. You're the only one observing with heightened intensity. The result is a one-sided emotional reality that feels mutual because you're mentally living inside it. Here's where things get real and helpful. If you want to know whether love is mutual or one-sided, psychology gives you a few grounded tools. Tip 1. Watch for initiation, not response. Warm responses don't mean mutual feelings. Initiation does. If they rarely initiate conversations, plans, or emotional disclosure, their feelings are not aligned with yours. Tip 2. Measure consistency, not intensity. One-sided connections often feel intense but inconsistent. Mutual connections feel steady, even if subtle. Tip 3. Observe exclusivity. If they treat everyone with the same warmth, their behavior isn't a sign, it's a trait. Tip 4. Remove the fantasy filter. Ask yourself, what part of this connection is real and what part is imagined? You'd be surprised how much clarity appears when you separate emotions from assumptions. Tip 5. Slow the emotional pace. Your feelings may be running at 100 miles per hour while theirs are at 20 miles per hour or not moving at all. When you slow down, your judgment becomes clearer. Here's the insight most people never hear. Love often feels one-sided even when both people feel the same way. Why? Because people express affection differently. Because insecurity makes you assume you care more. Because fear makes you underestimate their feelings. Because your brain protects you by expecting emotional imbalance. The truth is, your heart feels deeper than theirs, not because it's true, but because you experience your feelings at full volume while theirs can only reach you through subtle signals. This is why your brain whispers, it's one-sided, even when, sometimes, it's not. So why does love feel one-sided, even when it seems mutual? Because the brain is a storyteller, because emotions distort perception, because longing creates illusions, because hope paints over uncertainty. But understanding this psychology isn't sad, it's empowering. It teaches you how to love consciously, not blindly. It helps you see people clearly, not through projection. And it frees you from blaming yourself when connections don't align. Love becomes softer, healthier, more real. Now let's go further, deeper than the usual explanations you hear about one-sided love. Because behind the surface-level psychology lies something far more nuanced. A. Emotion lag. When two hearts beat at different speeds. One of the most overlooked truths in relationships is this. People feel emotions at different speeds. Some people fall quickly. Some fall slowly. Some don't fall at all until they feel completely safe. Imagine one person standing on a bridge, waiting for someone who's still walking toward it from miles away. To the person already on the bridge, it feels one-sided. But to the person still walking, it's simply not the right time yet. This emotional speed difference creates illusions. You think you're ahead, they feel behind. You think they're unsure, they think you're too fast. You think it's unbalanced, they think it's overwhelming. And so love appears one-sided, not because it truly is, but because you're feeling it first. B, the vulnerability gap. Every connection has an invisible distance between two emotional truths, the truth you feel and the truth you show. Most people never show what they truly feel, not right away. Why? Because revealing your emotions before the other person reveals theirs feels dangerous. You risk embarrassment. You risk rejection. You risk losing someone you care about. So you wait. And ironically, so do they. This mutual waiting creates a false illusion of imbalance. You feel deeply, but act cautiously. They feel something, but hide it behind calmness. Both hearts are speaking, but both mouths are silent. C, the mind's spotlight. You notice more than they do. When you like someone, your attention sharpens. You notice things they don't even know they're doing. Their glance, their tone, their small pauses, their laughter, their kindness, their energy shift. You become hyper aware. But they're not experiencing you through that same emotional spotlight. They're just being themselves. This spotlight mismatch makes you feel more invested and more vulnerable. When you're paying attention intensely, the connection feels heavy. When they're simply being casual, you misread it as lack of interest. And this is how one-sided love is born, not from reality, but from intensity. There's something interesting about heartbreak. Your heart knows it's one-sided long before your mind admits it. Why? A, emotional sensitivity versus rational delay. The emotional brain is faster than the rational brain. It picks up patterns before you can logically explain them. You feel they're pulling away. Something's off. The energy changed. The attention faded. Even if their words stay polite, your heart senses the distance. Your emotional brain is whispering a truth your logical mind isn't ready to accept. B, the illusion breaks slowly, then all at once. Realization happens in phases. Micro-doubt, a subtle discomfort, emotional imbalance, you care more, they care less, silent comparison, you notice they're warm with everyone, disappointment, expectations crash, acceptance, the truth surfaces, release. The illusion fades. But the pain comes from the first three stages, not the last. You're not hurt because love is one-sided. You're hurt because you believed it wasn't. C, the brain confuses potential with reality. Falling for someone is often falling for a possibility, not the person. You imagine what you could become, how they could feel, a future that hasn't happened, a version of them that doesn't exist. Your brain invests in a story, but the person doesn't match the story. And when reality doesn't align with imagination, it feels like rejection. But it's not rejection. It's misalignment, a mismatch between what you hoped and what truly is. Let's talk about behaviors you've probably experienced. Behaviors that create emotional imbalance even when the connection is real. Psychologists call them asymmetrical cues. 1, they text warmly but rarely initiate. You think, oh, they must be scared or shy. But in reality, warm responses do not equal romantic interest. 2. They give compliments without emotional depth. They say nice things but avoid vulnerability. This creates a surface level warmth that feels meaningful but isn't exclusive. 3. They listen well but share little. You feel emotionally connected, but they feel emotionally guarded. 4. They enjoy your presence but don't prioritize you. Time spent together is comfortable, but not intentional. 5. They avoided defining the relationship. This creates emotional imbalance, even when there is mutual care. 6. They give mixed signals. High warmth, low commitment. This is the perfect formula for one-sided love. Not because they're manipulating you, but because humans act differently with each person depending on their emotional comfort zone. Attachment styles heavily shape the feel of mutuality. A. The anxious mind feels deeply, quickly, strongly, reads into details, overestimates mutuality, craves reassurance. B. The avoidant mind feels deeply, but slowly, shows warmth inconsistently, pulls away when overwhelmed, creates confusion. C. The secure mind feels clearly, expresses clearly, but even a secure person can seem distant if the emotional timing isn't aligned. Here's the twist. Most one-sided love happens between anxious and avoidant personalities, not because one loves more, but because they love differently. This difference alone can make mutual feelings feel painfully unbalanced. This is the part few people talk about. Sometimes love is mutual, but communication styles make it feel unbalanced. Examples: they show love through actions, not words. They feel deeply but aren't expressive. They're afraid of ruining the connection. They're emotionally slow but eventually loyal. They're cautious because of past trauma. They need certainty before opening up. In these cases, the love isn't one-sided. The expression is. And that difference can make the connection feel fragile, even when it's real. Here's a truth most psychologists agree on. People often hide their feelings not because they don't care, but because they care too much. Let's explore the internal fears that make mutual love look one-sided. A. Fear of rejection. Even confident people fear being rejected by someone they actually like. When your heart is involved, rejection hits deeper. So many people choose silence over risk. This creates a strange imbalance. You feel deeply, they feel deeply, but both of you think the other doesn't. This fear alone has ended more potential love stories than heartbreak ever has. B. Fear of misreading signals. Some people are terrified of assuming wrongly. They've been embarrassed before. They've gotten hopes up before. They've mistaken kindness for romance before. So now they underreact, underexpress, undershare. Their caution feels like disinterest, but it's self-protection. C. Fear of losing control. When people start caring, they fear losing emotional independence. They fear becoming vulnerable. They fear depending on someone. They fear losing themselves. So they pull back, not because they don't feel something, but because they feel too much and don't know what to do with it. D. Fear of hurting you. This is the most silent fear. Sometimes someone likes you back, but they're not ready for a relationship, or they're confused, or healing, or overwhelmed, or stuck in their own emotional maze. So they distance themselves to avoid misleading you. The result? mutual feelings, unequal expression. It looks one-sided, but it's actually cautious-hearted love. Timing is an invisible force that shapes every connection. Two people can have the right chemistry, the right energy, the right compatibility, the right attraction. But if they don't feel these things at the same time, love feels one-sided. Example scenario. You like them now, they're emotionally unavailable. Months later, you've moved on, and now they finally realize what they felt. This timing mismatch creates lifelong what-ifs. Psychologists call this the emotional sync gap, two hearts beating for each other at different moments. Mutual love plus wrong timing equals one-sided illusion. Wrong timing plus two guarded hearts equals missed chance. This is why the phrase, if they wanted to, they would, is not always true. Many people want to, but timing suffocates courage. Now let's go even deeper to the neuropsychology of why one-sided love feels so intense. A. Dopamine amplification. When someone becomes emotionally significant, their texts create dopamine spikes. Their smile gives reward signals. Their attention boosts emotional arousal. Your brain becomes addicted to the idea of them, so every warm gesture feels like confirmation, even if it wasn't. B. Oxytocin projection. You bond earlier than they do. Your oxytocin, bonding hormone, rises faster. This makes you feel emotionally tied, even in the absence of real reciprocity. You feel closeness before true closeness exists. C. Emotional memory bias. The brain stores emotionally charged moments more vividly, so any warm detail, a shared laugh, a long eye contact, a meaningful conversation, gets magnified. You remember it as bigger than it was. Your brain intensifies the memory, your heart intensifies the meaning, and suddenly, the painful truth. You fell in love with a moment, not a pattern. When you like someone, the brain becomes selective. You highlight the positives and minimize the negatives. You focus on one look, one laugh, one message, one compliment, one late-night conversation, one shared vulnerability. These moments become proof in your eyes, evidence of mutuality. But psychologically, isolated moments don't mean emotional reciprocity. B. Underestimating negative signals. You overlook inconsistency, lack of initiation, emotional distance, lack of effort, low prioritization, avoidance of deep topics, hesitation to commit. You fill these gaps with hope instead of truth, and your mind convinces you that something deeper exists. C. The brain protects you from pain. Strange but true. Your brain sometimes lies to protect you. It creates illusions to soften loneliness. It amplifies hope to keep you emotionally stable. It protects your heart even if it means misleading your perception. And this is why one-sided love feels so powerfully mutual. Your mind is trying to help, but ends up creating emotional confusion. One-sided love is not just emotional pain. It has psychological side effects too. A. Emotional exhaustion. You give more than you receive. Your emotional tank drains faster than it fills. B. Self-doubt. You begin questioning, am I not enough? Did I imagine everything? Was I too much? Why wasn't I chosen? These questions are natural but deeply unfair to your own worth. C. Emotional codependency. You begin measuring your value based on their reactions. Their attention becomes your oxygen. Their silence becomes your anxiety. D. Narrative attachment. You become attached to the story of what could be, not the reality of what is. You don't fall in love with the person, you fall in love with the future your mind created. And that is the most painful illusion of all. Psychologists say one-sided love becomes emotionally damaging when 1. You initiate 90% of interaction. This is imbalance, not fate. 2. Your emotional effort exceeds theirs by a wide margin. Mutual love has shared effort. 3, you feel anxious more than you feel excited. Anxiety is misalignment speaking. 4, you constantly decode tiny signals. If it's real, you won't need to decipher it. 5, their consistency changes without explanation. Energy doesn't shift when love stays steady. 6, you feel more alone with them than without them. This is the ultimate sign that the love is not mutual. Walking away is not weakness, it is emotional wisdom. Healing from one-sided love doesn't happen overnight, it happens in layers. A, the mind clears before the heart does. You understand the truth logically long before the emotional attachment fades. B, you stop replaying scenarios. The mind gradually stops revisiting the illusion. C, the person loses their emotional power. They stop being the center of your internal world. And D, you realize the pain wasn't about them. It was about the version of them your heart created. Healing isn't forgetting the person. It's finally seeing them clearly. Not every one-sided feeling is a true imbalance. Sometimes the love is mutual, but hidden behind fear, timing, or emotional caution. Here are the clearest psychological signs that the connection is real, even if not openly expressed yet. 1. Their energy changes around you. They become softer, warmer, more attentive, more aware, a little nervous, a little careful. People rarely act this way around someone they don't care about. 2. They remember small details. Someone who remembers your stories, preferences, discomforts, and dreams, even the small ones, is emotionally invested. 3. They show effort in subtle ways, not grand gestures, not dramatic moves, but small, meaningful ones. Adjusting plans for you, checking if you got home safely, noticing your mood, being gently protective, staying longer when you needed company. This is quiet affection, love in its most careful form. They are afraid to hurt you. You can see hesitation in their actions, a tenderness that reveals concern. Sometimes this fear makes them slow, but it also proves they value your heart. 5. They're consistent even if they're slow. Consistency is the real language of mutual love. If their presence doesn't disappear, even when they're busy or overwhelmed, there's something real there. 6. They feel safe with you. Mutual love often shows in the way someone relaxes around you. Their voice softens, their face brightens, their guard lowers. They share personal stories. They trust you with their truth. This is intimacy before confession. One of the hardest experiences in one-sided love is the shift. That moment when their energy changes, when the warmth fades, when the attention becomes inconsistent. Psychologically, this sudden shift isn't actually sudden. A, you miss the early signs. People withdraw in small steps. Slow replies, shorter conversations, fewer questions, less enthusiasm, more emotional distance. But because you're emotionally invested, your mind filters out the early clues. You only notice the change when it becomes obvious. B. Love makes you hopeful. Hope is blinding. It convinces you the connection is stronger than it actually is. So when the illusion breaks, the pain feels abrupt. even though the emotional unraveling happened gradually. C. Their emotional energy dropped. Sometimes people pull back for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Stress, trauma, overwhelming responsibilities, fear of closeness, emotional burnout, confusion, timing. But the heart rarely sees nuance. It only feels absence. Mixed signals are not random. They follow a pattern rooted in fear, insecurity, or internal conflict. A. Mixed signals from avoidant personalities. Avoidants crave closeness, but fear dependence. So they create warm moments, then distance, depth, then withdrawal. Not because they don't care, but because caring scares them. B. Mixed signals from anxious personalities. Anxious people overexpress, then overthink, then retreat, then repeat. Their inconsistency comes from emotional turbulence, not disinterest. C. Mixed signals from people with unfinished stories. These are the people still healing. Past heartbreak, unprocessed trauma, emotional exhaustion, unresolved commitments, fear of repetition. They want love, but fear the emotional cost. So you receive half signals, truth hidden behind protection. What if they actually liked me? What if I misread everything? What if timing was the only problem? What if I was important to them, but they were scared? What if we could have been something real? What if I walked away too early? These questions linger longer than the person. A. What if creates emotional paralysis? You stay stuck, not in love with them, but in love with the possibility. B. What if rewrites reality? The brain fills gaps with imagination. You rewrite conversations, moments, and gestures into stories they never intended. C. What if prevents closure? Because you're still talking to a version of them that lives only inside your emotions. The actual person moved on, but the emotional memory hasn't. People often shame themselves for loving someone who didn't love them back. But here's the truth. You felt something true. Your emotions were real. Your connection felt meaningful. Your hope was sincere. There's no shame in that. The illusion wasn't weakness. It was your heart trying to understand closeness, trying to create meaning, trying to find connection. You didn't imagine everything. Your feelings didn't come from nowhere. They came from tiny moments, emotional vulnerability, meaningful exchanges, human connection, psychological projection, your desire to be known. It's not stupidity, it's humanity. You cared, you felt, you tried, you hoped. That is emotional courage, not emotional weakness. There is a strange moment in one-sided love when time seems to stretch. Minutes feel like hours, especially when you're waiting for a reply, waiting for a sign, waiting for anything that tells you, yes, they feel it too. Psychology calls this emotional hypervigilance. Your mind scanning every tiny cue, reading into every silence, and attaching meaning to every delay. Your brain isn't trying to torture you. It thinks it's protecting you. It believes that by monitoring every micro detail, it can prevent future pain. But the result? You become trapped in anticipation, even when the other person never asked you to wait. This is why one-sided love feels like standing on a train platform for hours, convinced the train is coming, while others already know that line has been closed for years. One-sided love isn't just emotional, it's neurological. The brain locks onto a person like a spotlight in a dark theater, illuminating them while leaving everything else in shadow. One of the most common illusions in human behavior is romantic misattribution. It starts with something incredibly small: a warm smile, a lingering eye contact, a slightly softer tone when they say your name. The brain magnifies these tiny gestures into emotional proof. You think it has to mean something. People don't look at each other like this for no reason. But cognitive psychology reminds us that humans are masters at projecting intention. Your brain fills in emotional blanks because it wants the story to continue. So a polite smile becomes a sign. A friendly touch becomes a secret message. A moment of warmth becomes a silent confession. In reality, sometimes people smile that way with everyone. Sometimes they speak softly because that's their nature. Sometimes what you feel is meaning is simply your heart searching for confirmation. This doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human. There are moments that feel mutual. A shared laugh that lasts a little too long, a quiet conversation where both of you open up, a night where everything feels aligned, easy, and intimate. But even those moments can be deceptive. Two things can be true at the same time. The moment was real. The feelings weren't equal. Many people misinterpret emotional openness as romantic connection. But emotional closeness isn't always romantic closeness. Humans can connect deeply without feeling desire, and humans can desire without truly connecting. This mismatch is one of the biggest reasons love feels one-sided. You both lived the same moment, but you experienced different meanings. This is one of the most important psychological insights of the entire topic. Your brain often falls in love with the potential of someone long before falling in love with who they actually are. What does that mean? You fall in love with future scenarios, imagined conversations, a version of them that exists perfectly inside your mind. The person they might become if everything goes right. This is called affective forecasting, and the brain is notoriously bad at it. It predicts emotional outcomes based on hopes, not data. This is why one-sided love feels mutual. It's mutual in your imagination. Your mind fills gaps with ideal outcomes, creating a love story that hasn't happened yet. This also explains why rejection feels so devastating. You're not just losing a person, you're losing the entire world your brain built around them. One-sided love activates a unique neurological loop. It works like this. You feel attracted, you receive inconsistent signals, some warm, some distant. The inconsistency increases emotional intensity. Your brain releases more dopamine. Dopamine makes the attraction feel more powerful. The cycle repeats. This is called intermittent reinforcement, the same pattern that makes certain habits, relationships, and even unhealthy attachments nearly impossible to let go of. Humans become more attached when rewards are unpredictable. So, the less predictable the person, the more intensely your brain bonds with them. Ironically, the people who give you mixed signals are the same people your brain struggles hardest to release. Here is a difficult but freeing psychological insight. Sometimes the person you love doesn't love you back, but they enjoy being loved by you. They like the attention, they like the validation, they like the emotional warmth that you radiate towards them. They like the safety of knowing someone cares deeply. But liking the feeling isn't the same as liking you in a romantic way. This dynamic creates a one-sided bond that feels mutual, but only because both people are benefiting from different emotional currencies. You offer affection, they offer connection, but the exchange is uneven, and your heart feels the imbalance long before your mind admits it. Here are subtle psychological markers that feelings are not mutual. Consistency. Mutual interest is stable. One-sided interest fluctuates. Initiation. If you always start the conversations, the bond is unbalanced. Effort. Real interest creates effort. Lack of effort creates excuses. Availability. Someone who wants you makes time. Someone who doesn't makes you wait. Clarity. Mutual love feels steady, not confusing. Remember this. Confusion is rarely a sign of mutual love. It's usually a sign of imbalance. Your brain may create narratives, but your intuition always whispers the truth first. Here is the emotional peak of this entire journey. One-sided love isn't a failure. It's an overflow. Your heart simply feels deeper, faster, and more intensely than theirs. And that depth isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something to understand. The truth is powerful. Sometimes love feels one-sided, not because the other person lacks emotion, but because you are the type of human who experiences connection with full presence. Your love is not weak. It is abundant. You love in ways that others need time to learn. You love with the clarity that others need time to reach. You love with the sincerity that others need time to recognize. One-sided love is painful, but it is also proof that your heart is alive. You cannot force someone to meet you where you are. You can invite them, you can hope for them, you can wait for them, but you cannot carry both hearts on your own. Love is mutual when it grows in two directions, but it begins in one. Your ability to feel deeply is not the problem. The problem is giving that depth to someone who cannot hold it. But once you meet the right person, someone whose emotional pace matches yours, love will no longer feel like reaching. It will feel like returning home. So why does love feel one-sided even when it seems mutual? Because the brain is hopeful. Because the heart is brave. Because humans are wired for connection, and connection often comes with illusion. And yet, that illusion teaches you the difference between longing and love, between emotional imagination and emotional reality. One-sided love shapes you, but it does not define you. It refines you. If this story or psychological insight touched something inside you, consider liking the video, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more calm, deep, mind-focused content. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most.